The story opens with a narration from teenager Sabrina Spellman, who tells the viewer the dilemma she faces. On her 16th birthday, she'll need to make a decision between her human side and which side. However, in her home, October country, she still gets to spend her time going to the movies with her friends. Her group includes dreamy boyfriend Harvey Kinkle, Rosalind Walker-Aka Rose, and Susie Putnam. After a black and white zombie film, the friends prepare to dissect the movie at a local restaurant. They run into Mary Wardwell, Sabrina's favorite but introverted teacher, on their way out. She invites Mrs. Wardwell to join. However, the teacher declines in favor of some time to grade papers. Rosalind is confused as to why Sabrina would do something as uncool as inviting a teacher to hang out, but the latter reveals that she feels bad for the lonesome Mrs. Wardwell. Meanwhile, on Mrs. Wardwell's ride home, she almost runs over a woman in the street. She ends up taking the woman home to offer her some tea and shelter. However, there's something a little weird about the way Wardwell treats the girl. She calls her a poor creature, which hints that she could be in tune with the supernatural. Not enough to realize the woman is actually a dark force who murders Wardwell and steals her body. This imposter needs to get to Sabrina Spellman, and who better to influence the young witch than her favorite teacher. Meanwhile, Sabrina and her friends have a fun time breaking down the film. Rosalind and Susie have an academic take on the movie and a metaphorical interpretation. Poor Harvey is completely lost, but Sabrina only finds it charming that he had his eyes closed during the film. Taking her home, the two share a cute scare with Harvey pretending to be a zombie. He gives her a necklace and the duo kiss for the first time. Her fun times are cut short by the ticking clock as her 16th birthday gets closer. A bat comes flying through her window at night, and Sabrina tells the omen to be gone. The next morning, her Aunt Hilda and Aunt Zelda want to know if she's picked a dark baptism name. While they both follow the Church of the Night, Hilda has a much more joyful and empathetic nature to her. Zelda is a little more austere and sits at the breakfast table smoking a cigarette with a holder. However, both are happy she chooses Edwina Diana as her baptism name in honor of her parents. Sabrina's cousin, Ambrose, sees right through her excitement for the dark baptism. He senses her anxiety and unwillingness to say goodbye to her human life. Nevertheless, he encourages her to tell her friends she's moving away because she's almost out of time. Later that day, the Weird Sisters interrupt Sabrina during her spell meant to call out to the spirits for a familiar. Comprised of Prudence, Agatha and Dorcas put a curse on her since they don't want a half-breed at their Academy of the Unseen Arts. Now cursed, Sabrina rushes to school so she can bathe the hex away. Satisfied she's safe, Sabrina leaves the shower only to find Susie crying in the locker room. Some of the jocks pulled up her shirt to see if she was actually a girl. Sabrina quickly goes to the principal, Hawthorne, and demands action be taken. He doesn't really care, and if Susie won't name them, then it doesn't matter anyway. In fact, he encourages Susie to find a new school. She quickly recruits Harvey to help her hunt down the culprits, and the faux Mrs. Wardwell offers her help too. The new teacher tells Sabrina if she could scare Principal Hawthorne to miss school for a few days, then the vice principal would probably let a club for female empowerment be created. Sabrina quickly recruits Rosalind, who is completely on board with toppling the patriarchy. Harvey is also supportive, even if he's not totally sure what's happening. Thanks to Mrs. Wardwell, Sabrina knows spiders will get Principal Hawthorne out of school. Rosalind and Harvey make another attempt to celebrate her birthday, but she shuts them down. Harvey knows something else is going on that she isn't telling him, especially when Sabrina drops the bombshell of moving to an elite boarding school. When he questions the name of the school and the location, she caves in. She takes him to the woods and reveals that she's actually a witch. She adds that on her birthday, she'll be committing herself to that path for life. Understandably, he's a bit shell-shocked, so Sabrina erases his memories and the two continue walking home. At her house, things get even worse for the young and already confused Sabrina. Hilda reveals the Weird Sisters' blood curse is still on Sabrina, so she'll need to handle that. However, when she takes a bath to reverse the curse, she hallucinates a pretty terrifying event. She's in the woods where she was born and sees her parents. There are also two babies there, Sabrina and someone else with cloven feet. The following day, Ambrose does agree to help Sabrina with some magic to scare her principal. He's covered in spiders, another horrifying image. Needless to say, he isn't coming back to school anytime soon. Sabrina also finds a familiar that night. A spirit of some kind rushes into her house, claiming he heard her call. The shadowy figure shrinks down into a cat, and the teenager names it Salem. Aunt Zelda is horrified her niece would rather be a feral compared to one the council had picked out. But she's even more terrified when Sabrina wants to move her dark baptism back. She doesn't feel comfortable leaving her body to the Dark Lord without learning more about the choice. Sabrina asks to speak with someone, but Zelda angrily shoots down the idea. Luckily, Ambrose has an idea which might help her make a choice. The Malum Malus is an apple which holds an all-seeing knowledge. He encourages Sabrina to find the oldest tree and take an apple from it, but to make sure no worms are in it. She quickly makes Harvey bring her apple picking, but Sabrina heads straight to the corn maze. Salem travels with her, which ends up being a lifesaver. Mrs. Wardwell has her familiar spying on Sabrina and learns of her plan early on. At school, Sabrina gets her club passed, which helps protect Susie and Baxter. Now one part of her human life feels resolved since her friends will be protected. However, as Sabrina pointed out earlier, she's having trouble saying goodbye to Harvey. Mrs. Wardwell offers to continue speaking with her, but when she's shot down, new plans have to be created. When Harvey gets distracted by apple picking, Sabrina heads into the old maze to find a very old tree. She's attacked by a zombie monster Mrs. Wardwell has reanimated to dissuade her from getting the Malum Malus. Salem manages to protect his new partner, and the two make it to the tree. However, Sabrina doesn't heed his warning when the cat hisses as she reaches for a pristine apple. Appearances are deceiving since the apple is actually full of worms. It brings her to a nightmare realm as Satan emerges from the tree to come after Sabrina. When she spits the apple out though, she's transported back and Harvey is ready to go. Back at the Spellman mortuary, Ambrose has found something that raises alarms for the witches. The dead body of a teenage boy is their latest project, but he has a witch's mark. This leads them to believe a witch hunter might be in town, and Zelda is worried Sabrina will be a victim as a witch not in a coven. Hilda suggests they have her speak with the high priest of the Church of Night, Father Blackwood. He's not only extremely creepy but also threatening. The father answers Sabrina's questions about her dark baptism and says that the ritual is mostly symbolic and downplays the seriousness of the sacrament. Sabrina, however, is very serious about what is being asked of her, particularly as it relates to her relations with the mortal world. Blackwood says that the Dark Lord is not evil, he's the embodiment of free will. If Sabrina undergoes the dark baptism and gives witch life a try, she has the free will to recant later. With the big day looming, Sabrina gets a taste of the witch life. When the football players continue to harass Susie, Sabrina turns to the Weird Sisters for help getting back at the boys. Sabrina and the sisters lead the boys into a mine shaft, where Sabrina plans to embarrass and blackmail them. The sisters, on the other hand, have their own plans to terrorize the mortals. The sisters point out that if Sabrina is so worried about the affairs of mortals, she should just remain with them. Later, Hilda and Zelda depart to make preparations for the ritual, leaving Sabrina home with Ambrose. He tells the teenager that if she goes through with the dark baptism, there won't be any going back to her mortal friends. A veil will separate them, and it would be best for Sabrina to forget them than to live with the pain of watching them grow old and die. Craving one last night with her friends, Sabrina attends a Halloween party at Rosalind's house with Harvey and their friends. Sabrina hopes that Harvey won't forget her when she's gone, but also hopes that he can forgive her. When the party moves outside to watch the eclipse, Sabrina takes off to the woods for her dark baptism. Sabrina is hesitant, but prepared to go through with her unholy vows. Blackwood officiates the ceremony, but rather than being a mild formality as he earlier suggested, the full impact of what she's about to do weighs on Sabrina. She sees another vision of her parents, with her mother telling Sabrina to run away. Blackwood and the coven follow Sabrina back to Spellman mortuary, where Ambrose bluffs that a protection spell surrounds the house and drives the coven away. The following day, Zelda claims that Sabrina embarrassed her and disgraced the Spellman name. In the meantime, Wardwell calls out to the Dark Lord, pleading for mercy that she doesn't deserve after failing to deliver Sabrina to him. Back at school, Sabrina is summoned to the principal's office, where the Dark Lord possesses Hawthorne and warns her to either sign her name in his book or wish that she had after he is done with her. Sabrina is so startled from her run-in with the Dark Lord that she runs to the bathroom and throws up. Madam Satan is already waiting to swoop in and comfort her, thus cementing their bond. Despite this, Sabrina still spends the rest of the day struggling with anxiety and stress. At least Rosalind and Susie give her a new situation to focus on. Rosalind is furious because her teacher won't let her use the bluest eye for a book report. Hawthorne claims the school doesn't have a banned books list, but they don't want to encourage students to read anything with inappropriate material. While in class, the girls are encouraged to head to the library and look up all of the books Baxter High would deem inappropriate. Turns out, they've all been checked out for a very long time. The librarian actually reveals that there was a soft purge of novels a while back which ignites a new passion for Rosalind. Unfortunately, Sabrina gets one more thing to contend with when she's sent an official summons to the witch's court. Zelda is furious because this also means the two aunts have lost all of their powers throughout Sabrina's trial. They expect their niece to grovel and beg for forgiveness before signing the book so this can all be done with. However, Sabrina has come face to face with the Dark Lord, and she's planning to fight this with everything she's got. Luckily, Ambrose knows the name of a lawyer who has beaten the devil in court and directs his cousin that way. Father Blackwood is serving as the prosecutor as well, but it is obvious that he has deep history with the Spellman family. Nevertheless, he agrees that Sabrina will be fine if she apologizes to the coven and then signs the book. Elsewhere, Daniel Webster, the attorney, seems to be living a downtrodden life. Sabrina tracks him down to a rundown house filled to the brim with boxes. He's boozed out and sadly declines Sabrina's offer to defend her despite being shocked by her Spellman heritage. However, he's haunted by his own demons, specifically his deceased daughter. Right before Sabrina pleads guilty to save her family, Webster comes crashing in to announce her plea. That's the only boost of confidence she needs to decide it's time to fight, even if it's a losing battle. She's being accused of breaking her promise to the Dark Lord, and her punishment will be burning for 333 years in the pit after death, as well as signing away her soul. Zelda is furious Sabrina would hire a mortal who took advantage of her father. However, Webster reveals that Sabrina's father, Edward, was actually a friend who taught him everything he knew about witch laws. On the other hand, Father Blackwood equates Sabrina's escape from her baptism as a bride running out on a groom. Webster continues with this metaphor by saying without a marriage certificate, but that's not exactly true. Turns out Edward had signed away Sabrina's soul 3 days after her birth with Zelda as the witness. Looks like Sabrina's been promised away since before she could even make the decision herself, as a way for him to marry her mother. Zelda tries to argue her niece was supposed to sign the Book of the Beast and never learn of her treachery. A bit too late now. The Dark Lord isn't about to lose another chance at Sabrina's soul though. Madam Satan sends the ghost of Webster's daughter to lure the young witch to the library to read up on the lawyer. Turns out, he freed a child rapist who was also a cannibal. Webster does have somewhat of a defense when Sabrina confronts him. Turns out, he signed away his soul as a young ambitious lawyer in exchange for winning cases. However, he was only given clients who had committed the worst possible acts. As Webster points out, there's always a fine print with the devil's contracts. In this case, he became a great lawyer for defending awful people. The price he paid was one of those criminals breaking into his house and murdering, torturing his daughter. Sabrina is the first person who actually deserves to be saved, and Webster is adamant he can do it. At the trial the next day, he argues Sabrina is half mortal, therefore a trial by witches is unfair. In human court, it's innocent until proven guilty, which means she'd have a stronger shot at winning. Blackwood says she has the choice of either being drowned to see if she floats, which means she's a witch, or being stripped in front of the coven to look for a witch's mark. Since no one is really sure if Sabrina has a witch's mark, her aunts want her to take a plea deal. The Dark Lord will forego her punishment in the pit if she just signs her name. However, Webster points out that the devil rarely makes any kind of deal. She tends to agree but is still a little worried. Sabrina finds the only person she trusts, Harvey, and asks him to inspect her for a birthmark. It's one of the lightest moments of the series, to see Harvey light up at the possibility of his girlfriend taking her shirt off, even if it's for such a weird request. He takes his shirt off and looks over Sabrina, but doesn't find anything. Confidently standing before the court, she announces she'll submit to an examination. Webster requests it be done in private, but Blackwood doesn't seem to care. However, Hilda comes through with a last-minute win for the good guys. Turns out, the day before Edward sacrificed Sabrina's soul, her mother had her baptized in a Christian church. Hilda served as a witness because she thought Diana was just being sentimental. Now it seems like Diana was anticipating Edward's decision and wanted to save her daughter's soul. With competing claims by the path of night and light, the court comes to an agreement. Sabrina will not be forced to sign the Book of the Beast and can keep her mortal life so long as she attends the Academy of Unseen Arts. She agrees to these terms, and her aunts get their powers back for now. Webster walks back into the path of the light, earning a slight reprieve from his bargain by saving an innocent woman. Unfortunately, Hilda is excommunicated from the Church of the Night because of her part in the baptism. Meanwhile, Harvey also seems to be dealing with some serious stuff at home. His older brother Tommy is supportive of his artistic talents and wants to see his brother take a job at the comic book store. Unfortunately, their dad overhears and yells at his youngest son that if he wants a job it'll be at the mines with Tommy. However, Harvey is actually terrified of the mines. When he was little, he wandered into the mines for a game of hide and seek. Unfortunately, he finds the devil himself in the mines, and poor Harvey was paralyzed from fear. He stayed there crying for hours until Tommy found him. It seems like the supernatural has been circling the Kinkle family before he started dating Sabrina. Other than Harvey, both Rosalind and Susie have been kept out of the main storyline for the most part. It seems like Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is about to change that. Madam Satan delightfully tells Father Blackwood the only way to get to the youngest Spellman is to break apart her mortal relationships. This story takes a pause with Rosalind looking in the mirror as her eyes turn black. It is obvious that Baxter High is about to get a lot scarier. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave 1,000 likes or 100 comments if you'd like us to continue part 2. Thank you.